Welcome back. So we have covered a lot of stuff. We covered a lot of ground when it comes to the first-person shooter basic mechanics. But there's one thing that it's just a cosmetic item. You can say that when you are running around with a gun, you might have noticed in a lot of first-person shooters. I think you even have it in Counter-Strike. So there's a little crosshair in front of the gun, and as you're moving faster, the crosshair kind of expands in size from the center out. So we will try and do something like that. Now we'll not be creating anything in art form as such. So what we can do instead is there's a username who goes there's a guy who goes by the name Osman, and he's a moderator in Unreal Engine forums, and he has provided with any Unreal developer and Unreal Engine developer a free custom dynamic crosshair. So all you have to do is search for it. So you can go over and look for Google or Bing if you wish. I'll just try dynamic crosshair UE4, and you'll have to look for this guy called Osman, and he's a moderator there, and that's his post. So that's the first one. When the moment you type these three words, the first link is going to be free asset dynamic UMG crosshair. You click on that, and then this is the post that he's looking at. You'll be looking at this post. Now this is quite decent, and for a free asset, it's very well done. So, and it's also tied up to the velocity of the player. So the faster you run, the wider it's gonna expand and all that. So I'm gonna go ahead and download this first. So I'll just say wb crosshair.rar. Okay. So I'll just say right click and let's say cross target, save target as, and that is the RAR file. Okay. Okay, actually the link was bad. So if you go over to the second page, the first page, the moment you open this link, the first link, you will be welcome to this page with all of these GIF files. And of course, this link is broken for some reason. So go over to the second page where some guy has put it up on an alternative website, another file sharing website. So if you go down and you'll see it here, it says here, and this is where it is. Now, given the fact that there are other dynamic crosshairs too, if you can just search for it, you can use your own, but we'll just go with this one. And so this is what it is. And of course, I can say this is another simple file sharing application, a file sharing website, a very small file, 0.01 megs, and the last download was a couple of days back or something. So I'll just download now, okay, and I'll wait for it, and I'll say okay what I want to do, and I'll just save as, and I'll just say I'll just save it here. Okay, I'll just put it here. In fact, I'll just say raw assets, and I'll just put it inside. I'll put it right here. Okay, and now I can open the folder and right click, and I can say extract to WB crosshair, and I can delete the RAR file now and go over here, and this is the WB crosshair U asset. Now of course I can change this. I can say dynamic crosshair, and I can directly drag this and drop it inside my project. Now this is inside widgets, so I'll drop it inside sprites and images, or even inside crosshair. Okay, and it says extension unknown. So what we can do is instead let's say right click, maybe even this won't work. Okay, U asset. Okay, so what I can do is I'll right click and I'll say right click, show in explorer. Okay, and I'll just dock it here, and then I'll just go over here and click this, and I copied that U asset file and I'm pasting it inside. And now when I come here, I should be able to see WB crosshair. Now when I double click that, I can see that this is all of this happening right here. Now of course you have the bottom, and and the right, the left. Okay, so we'll go through this, but at least we managed to get the asset inside. I'll get rid of all of these guys. I don't need it right now. HUD is something I'll need, and yes, the WB crosshair is finally inside the project, and in fact this should be inside the widgets because it is actually a widget, and this will be move here. So I move inside the widgets folder, and let's get started now. Okay, so if I open up my WB Crosshair again, now these are the four borders that you see, and beneath the border you have another border, but there are things inside which you can't see, but that's okay for now. And you also have, when I go over to the graph section, you can also see that there is a bunch of code written there, and not beautifully written. I mean, it's not beautiful or it's not artistic blueprint, but it's still readable. And then you have these three variables, the float variables, that's crosshair spread, thickness, and length. And these can be changed based on and these can be changed I mean, the overall behavior of the dynamic crosshair can be changed by tweaking these three variables. So right now it's 0, 0, 0, and all of them are 0, 4, and 8. And of course you can tweak around and play around with these values to to get a different feel, or to make these the dynamic crosshair behave in a different way. Okay, and so what we are gonna work on this is we are gonna try and change the code or use all these three variables, or any of these three variables, to behave in a way which is relative to the velocity that the player, or the speed that the player is moving in, right? So the first things first, we won't be bothered about this code yet. We'll be coming back to this, of course. But the first thing is, I'll go over to my player, and I'll, instead of showing the HUD, the basic HUD, I'll instead show this WB Crosshair. So let's see what happens. So I'll go over and I'll select WB Crosshair from Event Begin Play. That's where I'm creating a widget. And then I'm doing all of this in Begin Play, Event Begin Play. So I'm just going to change this for now, and I'll see what really happens. I'll compile it. I'll save it. Okay, so I'll go over here and I'll open that up. Now you can see the crosshair. It's quite small, right? And of course, when I do that, and it comes up, and it doesn't go away, because we're not actually working on the HUD crosshair. Instead, we are working on this guy. It's quite small. That's okay. I'm gonna close this. Instead, what we can do now is, I just wanted to see if it works. At least I just wanted to see it render on the screen. So now that we are out of the way there, I'll go back to the player, and I'll go back and select HUD here, and I'll make some room for myself, and I'll bring him out like that. Okay, and I'll create another widget so that I can show WB Crosshair. You know what? I'm going to change the name of this to a better one. I'll just call this Dynamic Crosshair. I don't know what WB is, a widget blueprint, I guess. Dynamic Crosshair. Alright, and so that's been updated as well. Coming back to player, I'll say create widget, and I'll say add to viewport, and then connect this, and of course I'll have to first I'll have to make this. I'll have to select the class here, and I'll be selecting Dynamic Crosshair, and then I'll promote this to a variable so that I can use it later on, and I'll show you how. And I'll call this will be inside, let's say I'll call this Dynamic Crosshair ref. Okay, and this will be inside weapon. Okay, weapons. Right now, again, connect these two and make the necessary connections, and I'll just get rid of this, connect these two, and connect these two, right? And move them all to the left a bit so that I can make some room and make it look a little tidier, and maybe move this guy down so that I can space them all out. Right, so what we're doing now is we are actually bringing in the HUD, adding that to the viewport as usual. Then we are creating a dynamic crosshair widget based on dynamic crosshair, and setting that as a variable, promoting that to a variable, and adding that to the widget, and then going on with our lives. So it should give us the same result, except we now have a reference, and using this inside the player blueprint, we can set you can set the I think Yeah, you can set you can set the crosshair length, spread, and thickness exactly as the way we want. And because the velocity and the speed can be recorded inside the player, and with the connection to the dynamic crosshair and its variables, it'll make it easier for us to control the behavior of the dynamic crosshair. So when I hit play, I should still be able to see that little crosshair there. It's actually superimposed on the bigger one, okay? And when I right click, and you can still see that because we're not doing anything with this. So this is what we're gonna work on. All right, great.